Take a quiet moment and reflect on how life often changes course long before we recognize the signs. Some shifts happen beneath the surface, hidden from view, gradually setting new events into motion, while everything on the outside appears unchanged. What you are experiencing now may be one of those rare turning points. Somewhere, a person whose path is closely connected to yours has been navigating uncertainty, wrestling with decisions, and questioning directions they once believed were certain. What seemed like distance or delay was never truly leading them away. Instead, each unexpected detour was bringing them closer to a deeper understanding of what matters most. Recently, you may have felt subtle reminders appearing out of nowhere, a familiar memory, a recurring thought, or an unexpected feeling that refuses to fade. These moments are easy to dismiss, yet they often arrive when something unresolved is seeking attention. There is a growing awareness within you, a sense that change is approaching even if you cannot fully explain why. Trust that instinct. Meanwhile, far from your view, someone has begun to recognize the emptiness in routines that once felt comfortable. Conversations no longer carry the meaning they once did, and plans that seemed certain now raise more questions than answers. The more they try to ignore what feels missing, the more impossible it becomes to silence that inner voice. Slowly but unmistakably, clarity is replacing confusion, and a path that once appeared uncertain is beginning to reveal itself. And what they could not understand was why your energy kept returning to them during the quietest hours of the night. Not dramatically, not loudly, softly, like a song remembered from childhood, like a familiar warmth entering a cold room, like a feeling they could not name, no matter how hard they tried. The universe has a strange way of interrupting people before they lose themselves completely. Sometimes destiny does not arrive like lightning. Sometimes it reroutes slowly, through missed opportunities, unexpected endings, delayed plans, or moments that seem inconvenient at first. What feels like a detour is often protection. What feels like confusion is often redirection. And right now, your soulmate is standing in the middle of a rerouted path they never expected to walk. Don't skip this part, because what happens next matters more than you realize. There was a moment recently, small on the outside, enormous on the inside, when they suddenly stopped and felt something shift. Maybe it happened while driving home alone. Maybe during a conversation where they pretended to listen while their mind drifted somewhere else. Maybe while staring at a ceiling late at night, wondering why their heart no longer responded to the life they built around themselves. In that moment, your presence crossed their spirit again. Not your face alone, not your voice alone, your energy, your essence, the feeling of you. And it unsettled them, because suddenly, the future they had been forcing no longer made sense. The universe does this sometimes. It removes emotional certainty from the wrong places before revealing the right ones. It gently loosens the grip people have on paths that no longer belong to them. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the connections they once chased cannot compare to the peace they feel when their soul drifts toward you. Even if they have not spoken it aloud yet, even if they are still trying to understand it themselves, you have been changing too. Quietly, you became stronger in places where nobody applauded you. You learned how to carry loneliness without letting it harden your heart. You stopped begging for clarity from people who only offered confusion. And without noticing it, you began creating space for something more aligned to finally enter your life. That inner transformation mattered more than you know, because the universe does not reroute destiny carelessly. Timing changes when both souls are becoming ready to recognize what was always meant for them. And here is the strange part. Your soulmate may not fully understand why they are suddenly feeling pulled toward reflection, memory, and emotional honesty. They may think it is coincidence. They may try distracting themselves for a little longer. But every road they attempt to follow without truth will continue feeling incomplete. Because once the soul recognizes alignment, pretending becomes exhausting. You are closer to a turning point than you think, not because fate is forcing something unnatural, but because two emotional timelines are finally beginning to move toward the same horizon. Take a breath and listen carefully to this next part. The universe did not reroute their destiny to create chaos. It rerouted their destiny to create recognition. There is a difference. Chaos leaves people lost. Recognition brings people home to themselves. Your soulmate is slowly waking up to emotions they buried under logic, distractions, responsibilities, or fear of vulnerability. And as that awakening continues, they are beginning to notice how often your energy appears during moments that feel strangely meaningful. A certain song, a familiar phrase, a random memory, a feeling they cannot shake. You are becoming impossible to ignore inside their spirit. And yet, this story is not only about them, it is also about you learning not to rush what is unfolding, because the deepest connections are rarely built through urgency. They unfold through timing, emotional readiness, and quiet understanding. The universe is not asking you to chase. It is asking you to trust the unseen movement happening beneath the surface. Some things grow strongest in silence before they ever become visible. There is a reason you found this message tonight. Something inside you needed confirmation that the emotional shifts you have been sensing are not meaningless. Your intuition has been picking up fragments of a bigger change before your eyes could fully see it. That restlessness in your heart, that feeling that something important is approaching, it did not appear randomly. And soon, even the smallest interaction could carry unexpected weight. Some connections begin long before two people ever cross paths, long before a conversation unfolds or a glance is exchanged. Something subtle starts shifting beneath the surface. While life continues as usual, unseen emotional growth is quietly taking place on both sides. Genuine love is rarely built on excitement alone. It grows from a deeper sense of understanding. It emerges when someone recognizes a feeling they have been searching for without even realizing it. Your person is gradually arriving at that realization. They are beginning to understand that fulfillment was never hidden in flawless appearances, fleeting thrills, or constant validation. What their heart truly longed for was sincerity, comfort, and a connection that feels effortless rather than complicated. The kind of bond where silence is never awkward, where trust forms naturally, and where being understood requires few words. Even if they cannot fully explain it yet, something keeps drawing their thoughts toward this feeling. There is a growing awareness within them that refuses to be ignored. Still, the most important insight has not completely surfaced, for now they feel the change emotionally, like an inner pull they cannot quite define. Soon, that feeling will transform into clear understanding, and everything may begin making sense in a way it never has before. When that happens, the space between your journeys could shrink unexpectedly. Life has a remarkable way of aligning people when the timing is right. And sometimes the most meaningful chapter begins the moment someone finally stops resisting what their heart has known all along. It does not happen all at once. It happens in layers, in pauses between conversations, in long silent drives, in moments where someone suddenly realizes they have spent too much time trying to convince themselves that almost was enough. And your soulmate, they are standing dangerously close to that realization now. For a while, they believed distraction could silence what their spirit kept trying to reveal. They filled their days with noise, obligations, routines, and conversations that looked meaningful from the outside but felt strangely hollow underneath. People around them assumed everything was normal. They laughed when expected, smiled at the right moments, continued moving through life as if nothing inside them had changed. But late at night, when the world became quiet again, something deeper always returned. You, not just the thought of you, the feeling of you. And there is a difference, because thoughts can disappear quickly, feelings do not. Real soul recognition lingers. It returns unexpectedly. It interrupts ordinary moments. It slips through emotional walls people thought were permanent. Your soulmate has been experiencing this more intensely than ever lately, though they still struggle to explain it logically. Sometimes they catch themselves staring into space after hearing something that reminds them of you. Sometimes they feel a sudden heaviness in their chest when imagining a future that does not include your energy. Sometimes they become quiet for no visible reason, because somewhere deep inside, their soul is comparing every connection to the peace it senses in yours, and the comparison is becoming impossible to ignore. Stay with this message, because something important is unfolding slowly here. The universe does not reroute destiny through force. It reroutes through emotional truth. Little by little, it removes illusions people once relied on. It reveals where energy feels forced and where it feels natural. And your soulmate has started noticing that certain connections in their life require constant effort just to feel stable, while the energy surrounding you flows effortlessly inside their spirit even during silence. That realization changed something. At first, they resisted it. Of course they did. Human beings often fear what feels deeply real because real connection asks them to become emotionally honest. It asks them to stop performing, stop pretending, stop settling for emotional experiences that only touch the surface. Your soulmate has spent a long time protecting parts of themselves from vulnerability, convincing themselves that emotional distance was safer than emotional depth. But the universe has been quietly dismantling those walls one by one, and now they feel exposed in ways they never expected. Not weak, not broken, just emotionally awake. There is a memory they keep revisiting lately, a moment connected to you that felt strangely alive compared to everything around it. Maybe it was a conversation that stayed in their mind longer than it should have. Maybe it was the way you understood something about them without needing long explanations. Maybe it was simply the comfort they felt around your energy without realizing how rare that comfort truly was. At the time, they brushed it aside. Now they cannot stop replaying it. That is how destiny often returns. Quietly, repeatedly, patiently. The universe does not scream when something is meant for you. It whispers until your soul finally listens, and your soulmate is listening now more than ever before. But there is another layer to this story that even you may not fully understand yet. While their heart has been awakening emotionally, your energy has also been changing in powerful ways behind the scenes. You are no longer the same version of yourself who once doubted your worth in silence. You are no longer emotionally available for confusion disguised as affection. Somewhere along the way, your soul became more selective, more aware, more aligned with what truly nourishes your spirit. And because of that growth, the universe began shifting timelines around you. Do not underestimate how important this is. Sometimes, soulmate connections cannot fully arrive until both people evolve beyond the emotional patterns that once blocked them from recognizing each other clearly. Timing matters, emotional readiness matters, self-awareness matters, and the reason this rerouting feels so intense right now is because both of your internal worlds are changing simultaneously. There are moments your soulmate feels your absence almost physically now, even if they have not admitted it aloud, even if pride still tries to interfere. Lately, a quiet realization has been unfolding within them, one they can no longer push aside or explain away. Even during the moments when life seems busy and distracting, there is an unmistakable awareness of your absence whenever the connection feels less present. They notice the silence, the slower conversations, and the subtle shift in emotional closeness more than they would ever admit. Outwardly, they may appear composed, carrying on as though everything is unchanged, but beneath the surface, your presence has taken on a deeper meaning than they expected. What unsettles them is not uncertainty about you, but the growing certainty itself. Some connections reach a point where they stop feeling temporary and begin touching something far more profound. That is where they find themselves now. What once seemed easy to overlook has become impossible to ignore. They are beginning to recognize that your paths crossing was not merely a coincidence but a meaningful turning point that has quietly influenced them in ways they never anticipated. Recently, An unexpected moment brought this truth into sharper focus. It may have come through a simple conversation, an observation, or a fleeting experience that seemed insignificant at first. Perhaps they witnessed genuine affection between two people, or reflected on their own future, and felt a missing piece they could not quite name. In that instant, thoughts of you resurfaced naturally and remained long after the moment had passed. For the first time, they stopped avoiding what their heart had been trying to reveal and allowed themselves to acknowledge it completely. Once that truth settled in, pretending otherwise was no longer possible. The universe has been preparing this emotional awakening carefully, not to overwhelm them, to guide them. There are emotional patterns breaking apart inside your soulmate now, old fears about vulnerability, old beliefs that love must feel complicated to be meaningful, old habits of settling for emotional inconsistency because it felt familiar. Your connection is challenging those patterns simply by existing, because your energy carries something they have struggled to find elsewhere, emotional sincerity. And sincerity changes people, especially people who have spent years surrounded by emotional performance. You may not realize how deeply your authenticity affected them. The way you speak honestly, the way your presence feels calming instead of demanding, the way your energy does not force them to become someone else in order to feel accepted. These things mattered more than either of you fully understood at first. Now those memories are returning with stronger emotional weight. The universe is showing them what real alignment feels like by making everything else feel increasingly disconnected from their spirit. But here is where the story becomes even more powerful. Your soulmate is beginning to notice signs of emotional synchronicity around you. Strange timing, repeated reminders, unexpected coincidences that keep bringing your energy back into focus no matter how much they try to move past it. They may see your name unexpectedly, hear phrases connected to old conversations, feel sudden emotional shifts during moments when you cross their mind. At first they dismissed these things. Now they are starting to pay attention, because somewhere deep inside, their soul already understands what their mind is still trying to process. You were never just another passing connection. You became a mirror, a turning point, a quiet emotional awakening disguised as an ordinary encounter. And once someone experiences that kind of soul recognition, life rarely feels the same afterward. There are people around your soulmate who can sense something changing in them too. They may not know the full story, but they notice the distance in their eyes sometimes, the moments where they suddenly become thoughtful during conversations, the emotional weight behind their silence lately. Your soulmate has been carrying an internal shift that nobody fully understands yet, not even them, because part of this transformation feels spiritual rather than logical. It feels like being emotionally pulled towards something meaningful before understanding why. And that pull is becoming stronger. There are nights now when they lie awake replaying possibilities they once refused to entertain, wondering what would happen if they stopped resisting the connection, wondering whether the universe has been trying to guide them towards something real this entire time, wondering whether you have been feeling these shifts too. Yes, you have, even if you could not explain them clearly before. That sudden emotional sensitivity you have felt lately, the moments where your intuition became unusually strong, the strange calmness mixed with anticipation inside your spirit, those feelings are connected to the same energetic shift unfolding around your soulmate right now. Two souls do not move toward alignment without creating emotional echoes, and the echoes are growing louder. Do not skip this next realization. One of the reasons the universe rerouted your soulmate's destiny is because the version of life they were building no longer matched the truth of who they are becoming. Sometimes people chase futures that look correct externally but feel empty internally. They pursue comfort while quietly starving emotionally. They follow expectations instead of alignment. But eventually, the soul becomes restless. Eventually, emotional truth demands attention. Gradually, something meaningful has been shifting within this person's heart. The distractions that once kept their emotions buried no longer seem as effective, and the feelings they tried to dismiss have become impossible to overlook. What was once pushed aside is now demanding attention, not through dramatic events, but through quiet moments of reflection that reveal deeper truths. They are beginning to recognize that genuine connection is not built on confusion, distance, or emotional games. Instead, it is found in the rare comfort of feeling truly seen, valued, and understood. As this awareness grows, memories and emotions connected to you seem to carry a different significance. The more they reflect, the more clarity replaces uncertainty, and the more their guarded walls begin to lower. This transformation is not happening overnight, yet it is unfolding in a way that feels steady and undeniable. Circumstances around them are encouraging greater honesty, while old fears that once dictated their choices are gradually losing their influence. Although moments of hesitation may still arise, they no longer hold the same power they once did. A growing desire for authenticity is beginning to outweigh the instinct to retreat or remain silent. Because of that, meaningful changes may soon become noticeable. Conversations could feel deeper, interactions may carry greater sincerity, and emotions that were once carefully hidden might be expressed with surprising openness. What emerges next is unlikely to be driven by drama or intensity, but by something far more powerful: truth, understanding, and the willingness to embrace what has long been felt beneath the surface. Small moments where their guard slips and deeper feelings become visible. Pay attention to those moments. They are signs that the rerouting is becoming real in the physical world now, not only the emotional one. But remain patient. The universe is building something deeper than temporary excitement. It is building emotional alignment, and alignment cannot be rushed without weakening its foundation. There is another truth your soulmate is slowly realizing. You make them feel emotionally seen, not admired superficially. Seen. There is a powerful difference between people who enjoy your attention and people who feel transformed by your presence. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that your energy affects them deeply because you touch parts of their spirit they rarely reveal to others. Around you, they sense the possibility of becoming emotionally authentic instead of emotionally guarded. That possibility is both beautiful and terrifying to them, because authentic love requires honesty not only with another person, but with oneself. And they are no longer able to avoid that inner conversation. Something meaningful shifted recently when they stopped asking themselves whether this connection was real and started asking themselves why it felt impossible to forget. That subtle change altered everything internally, because forgetting casual connections is easy. Forgetting soul recognition is not. Your energy stayed with them because it reached beyond attraction. It reached identity. And now, piece by piece, they are beginning to understand the magnitude of what the universe has been trying to reveal. But the most important part has not happened yet. There is still one emotional breakthrough waiting ahead. One moment where everything they have been feeling internally finally becomes undeniable even to them. A moment where silence no longer feels easier than honesty. A moment where they stop observing the connection from a distance and finally allow themselves to step toward it fully. That moment is closer than it appears. The universe did not reroute this destiny carelessly. It did it because somewhere in the future, two souls are meant to meet each other without masks, without emotional pretending, without running from what they feel. And right now, even though neither of you can fully see the ending yet, the path toward that future is already unfolding beneath your feet. There are nights when the universe becomes unusually quiet before something life-changing begins to move into place. Not silent in an empty way, silent in a sacred way, as if unseen forces are carefully rearranging emotions, timing, memories, and choices while the world continues unaware. And lately, your soulmate has been standing inside that silence without even realizing how close they are to a profound turning point. Something inside them has softened, not suddenly, not dramatically, slowly, like winter melting from the edges first. The emotional walls they spent years building no longer feel as protective as they once did. In fact, those walls have started feeling exhausting, difficult to maintain. They still try to appear composed on the outside, but internally, your soulmate has entered a season of reflection that is changing the way they see everything, including themselves. And the strange part is this: the more they try to understand why their heart keeps returning to you, the more they begin uncovering truths about their own soul that they avoided for a very long time. Stay with this message, because what unfolds next is more personal than you think. There was a period in their life where they believed emotional detachment was strength. They convinced themselves that staying guarded meant staying safe. For a long time, they mastered the art of protecting their heart. They kept their emotions measured, their attachments cautious, and their relationships safely within boundaries they could control. Opening up completely felt far too risky, so they convinced themselves that love was something to navigate carefully rather than something to embrace wholeheartedly. Then you arrived, and that carefully constructed balance began to shift. Your presence stirred feelings they had quietly buried beneath years of emotional restraint. It wasn't an overwhelming rush or an impossible fantasy. It was something far more powerful, a gentle, persistent sense of possibility, the kind that whispers rather than shouts, yet changes everything. Slowly, they began to wonder whether genuine connection was still real, whether the depth they once believed was lost could actually be found again. That realization unsettled them in ways they never anticipated. Hope has a way of challenging every wall built for protection. Once it returns, indifference no longer feels comfortable, and emotional distance becomes harder to maintain. Lately, they have become increasingly aware of this contrast in their life. Conversations that once seemed acceptable now feel hollow. Connections built on routine or convenience no longer provide the fulfillment they once did. They find themselves noticing what is missing rather than settling for what is familiar. And whenever thoughts of you cross their mind, there is a distinct difference, a sense of ease, warmth, and clarity that stands apart from the noise surrounding them. It is this feeling that continues to draw their attention, quietly but consistently. The emotional depth, the strange feeling of familiarity that never fully leaves no matter how much time passes. And now they are beginning to ask themselves questions they avoided before. Why does this connection still feel alive? Why does your absence affect them so deeply? Why does imagining a future without you suddenly feel wrong? The universe rerouted their destiny because these questions were meant to awaken them, not confuse them, awaken them. There is a powerful difference. Confusion creates emotional chaos without direction. Awakening creates emotional clarity slowly, layer by layer, even when the process feels uncomfortable. Your soulmate is moving through that awakening now. Every experience around them is quietly pushing them toward greater honesty with themselves. Even the disappointments, especially the disappointments. Because the universe sometimes allows certain illusions to collapse, so people finally stop settling for emotional experiences that cannot nourish their spirit long term. And your soulmate is beginning to understand that some of the paths they once chased were never truly aligned with who they are becoming. That realization changed everything internally. There are moments now where they suddenly withdraw from conversations because their mind drifts toward you unexpectedly. Moments where someone asks if they are okay, and they cannot fully explain why they feel emotionally distant from everything around them lately. Moments where they catch themselves longing for a kind of connection they only truly experienced in glimpses with you. The feeling is becoming impossible to suppress. Don't skip this next part, because something meaningful is hidden inside it. Your soulmate recently experienced a moment of emotional honesty with themselves that nobody else witnessed. A deeply private moment. Maybe it happened while they were alone in bed staring at darkness. Maybe while sitting somewhere quiet after a long day. Maybe during one of those rare moments where life finally slows down enough for truth to rise to the surface. And in that moment, they admitted something silently inside their own heart. They miss you. Not casually, not temporarily, deeply. But what surprised them most was not the intensity of missing you, it was realizing how much peace your energy still brings them even from a distance. Usually when people lose emotional connection, memories become painful or distant over time. But with you, the emotional warmth remained alive, steady, familiar, comforting. That realization shook something loose inside them, because suddenly, this connection no longer felt like coincidence. It felt meaningful, fated perhaps, not in an exaggerated fantasy way, in a quiet soul-level way that defies simple explanation. And now they are beginning to wonder whether the universe has been protecting this connection even during separation. The answer is yes. Some connections are not removed during difficult seasons because they are meant to survive transformation. The person destined to share this connection with you needed space to outgrow old emotional habits, gain clarity, and understand what genuine feelings truly mean. At the same time, you were moving through your own period of growth, learning to appreciate your value without constantly seeking reassurance from others. You were given the opportunity to heal past disappointments, release lingering doubts, and rebuild trust in the possibility of a deep and lasting bond. Although the journey may have felt uncertain at times, every experience was quietly preparing both of you for a different chapter. That is why the present moment can seem unusual, almost as if unseen pieces are falling into place. Two individual paths, shaped by separate lessons and personal discoveries, are beginning to draw closer in ways that feel increasingly difficult to overlook. The changes may not arrive all at once. Instead, they can appear through subtle shifts in energy and understanding, a growing desire to reconnect, conversations that feel unexpectedly honest, and moments where emotions become more visible than either of you intended. What once seemed distant may start to feel familiar again, creating a sense that something important is unfolding beneath the surface. As these experiences gather momentum, a deeper awareness emerges. It is the realization that certain connections leave a lasting impression, transforming the way two people see and understand one another. That quiet sense of recognition has the power to change everything, creating an atmosphere that feels undeniably different from anything that came before.